All right, so as promised, I'm going to do the part 1 of the Linus Tech Tips Linux Daily Driver Challenge. And I think I got the mic working properly for this one because everybody was complaining about it only being in one channel for the last video. Can't be having that. Can't be giving Linux a bad name. So it seemed to have been a hardware thing, not a Linux thing. But let's go. I'm going to pause it when I want to talk and we'll take it from there.
To celebrate the exciting launch of Windows 11, Luke and I are challenging each other to ditch Windows altogether and replace our Windows PCs with Linux for a month. And if either of us caves, they have to dye their hair in red, green, blue, and yellow quadrants. Permanently.
Sorry for pausing it there. Permanently. Ooh. Does he mean like forever, or does he mean just like until somebody shaves it off? That's my question. So
easy, you might say. But I'm not talking about our work machines that are basically just used for word processing and web browsing. I'm talking about our personal rigs, the ones we both use on a daily basis, primarily for gaming. Has Linux gotten to the point where it's user-friendly enough that any tech nerd can pick it up and run? Is game compatibility going to be an instant deal breaker? Will any of my other applications even run? Who would sponsor this madness? Instantly see your current and past network activity, detect malware off glass, never actually make.
Just fast forward the sponsor. But one thing that I got flack for in the part 2 review, which is actually part 1 of my reviews, is that I didn't look at it from a perspective of somebody that's coming over to Linux for specifically gaming. And I get that a lot of the comments were kind of like, hey, is a gamer going to open up a command line to run a script? No, probably not. You guys are correct about that. So I will come at it from a slightly different perspective for this video. But yeah, let's take it from there.
Embarrassingly, I have never actually made an earnest attempt to daily drive Linux, and one of the reasons for that is the utterly paralyzing number of choices you have to make before you even get started.
He makes a valid point in that there's a lot of distributions to choose from. However, when you kind of get away from the nuance of it all, Linux is Linux. You may have different repositories and package managers and how things work, but really when you get down to the core of things, they all operate very similarly. As somebody that was starting in my journey down the Linux rabbit hole, though, I could see why this is a difficult decision. You have I actually don't know how many distributions there are. There's probably like thousands now, but there's the mainstream ones that have pretty good support and pretty big communities around them. That's usually what I recommend people go look at first. I wouldn't recommend installing Gentoo as your first go at Linux, nor would I encourage installing Arch or something like that. But if you can use Ubuntu or something like Manjaro, which is very, very well tailored to a new user, those are some things that I usually point people towards.
Now, I could just call on industry contacts or even use internal resources to make these decisions for me. But the point of this challenge is that Luke and I should be using the exact same resources that anyone else would have. And with that in mind, right out of the gate, I would forgive the average gamer for making it as far as Google hit #1 for best Linux distro for gaming and bailing on the entire deal. I mean, nothing against the author of this article. I did pick up some really useful information, but it is full of jargon that a non-Linux enthusiast couldn't possibly be expected to know, not to mention seemingly conflicting information.
That's a fair point because there is a lot of jargon in this world that could be condensed for new people, and I get the confusion.
How is it that Ubuntu can be simultaneously easy to use and beginner friendly and a hassle to set up? Another big one is that customization gets billed as this major selling point for Linux, and fair enough if that's your thing, but speaking on behalf of normies, I don't want a dozen novel ways to do the same thing. I want one fast, easy one. I mean, it's horrible when Microsoft scatters system settings all over the place. I think we all agree on that. And so we should all agree that it's horrible when anybody else does it. I mean, I'm the kind of person who doesn't even rename my video game characters because it makes it a nightmare to look anything up if I get stuck.
Fair points. And I see from my other review that this is one of the things that people wanted me to kind of move towards. I love the customization. I love the tinkerability, but does the average person? Probably not. The average person wants their operating system to just work. I get it. But does Windows?
And there are a ton of other red flags. Let's move on to hit #2 here, this time from Tech Radar. supports several controllers should not be a selling point for a gaming-focused product. It seems to imply that most of my stuff won't work. And included games are not the reason that anyone chooses an operating system. How are these articles so out of touch? Furthermore, the messaging around what makes an individual distro stand out compared to the other ones gets really muddy in some places. Like the way that these articles are often laid out, it sounds like if I choose the one with support for hybrid graphics, I'm going to be giving up kernel-level gaming optimizations. Or that if I want broad hardware support, that could cost me the customization that I crave. But the truth is that that's not the case. With a bit of elbow grease, the gaming-centric features and tweaks of one distro could be applied to another.
I think the issue with these articles is they're being written by somebody at a organization that they were essentially like, here's your topic for the day, go write about it. So their research is very, I would say, pretty surface level. If you really, really want to get into the weeds, go into the forums, go read, like the wikis and such. That's going to really give you a better idea. Go to the websites, watch YouTube videos of people that are reviewing these distributions. That's probably the better way of doing this than reading these questionable articles.
But with some exceptions. The Pantheon user interface, for example, is specific to elementary OS. And for a more gaming-related example, TechRadar mentions a feature of GamerOS, now called Chimera OS, called the Chimera app that sounds super cool. It allows you to easily install and manage non-Steam games and even ROMs for a wide range of retro consoles.
One thing I'll pause right there, though, I think that's more so like a dedicated media computer. So if you're going to be using it as almost like a Xbox replacement, or I know that there's different ROMs you can throw on Raspberry Pis for doing retro gaming and stuff like that. That seems to be more that direction. Whereas I think that what they're looking for is a general use operating system that is obviously going to be tailored towards a gaming experience.
Except that if I wanted an OS that doesn't support multitasking, I would invent myself a time machine so that I could go back and use it. But wait, hold on. The Chimera app can be used outside of Chimera OS. There's even a guide. But unless I want to really get into the weeds, I better stick with something based on Arch, by the way, like Manjaro or Garuda. Not that that's going to be my final answer. In spite of its spectacularly stupid name, pop!_OS topped just about every listicle that I found and legitimately has some compelling selling points, like demystifying the notoriously difficult process of getting my NVIDIA GPU working properly and making installing the apps and tools that I'm going to need to run my Windows games a one-click affair with the Pop Shop. If it was 10 years ago and I was looking for a challenge, Manjaro's bleeding edge approach, please forgive the occasional screw up, definitely calls to me. And did I mention it's based on Arch, by the way?
The inside jokes. Pop! OS, I don't really know anybody personally that uses it, but at the same time, I have heard very good things with the compatibility for the gaming side of things. Manjaro, I think, is a very, very good first user distribution. I think that's something that a lot of people could consider as a gateway into Linux, and it's not a bad one.
But I want to win this thing without pulling my hair out for a month, and Pop! OS looks like a really good bet for that. It's Ubuntu-based, so if I really want to get under the hood, that's totally an option. But the challenge here is play games, not get your PhD in Linux smartassery.
I, on the other hand, after a lot of deliberation, decided to go with the daring, the uncompromising Linux Mint with the Cinnamon desktop environment. As for how I think that's going to go, honestly, I'm pretty confident. I've used Mint before. I daily drove Ubuntu, the distro it's based on, for about 2 years back in school, so I'm not scared of figuring out how to install a GPU driver or use a package manager. I'm comfortable getting my hands dirty with Grub, but that doesn't mean I'm not a little scared of you. I'm pretty technical and I work in development every day, but hardcore Linux chads are absolutely terrifying. You scare me, and I really want this to go well because I still want you to like me when this is all over.
A lot of things to say about this. I think Luke's going to have an easier time than Linus. Well, obviously seeing part 2, it seems to be that he is having an easier time. Valid point about the community being a little bit unwelcoming. I'll leave it at that.
Got my drive ready, and Windows couldn't possibly have picked a more appropriate time to just bug the crap out. It's like it knows what's going to happen. It won't let me click power.
So it's not just Linux.
Obviously, I'm not 100% committed to this yet, so my plan is to remove my existing SSD from the system. It's not a Gen 4 drive or anything, but I'm not expecting that to matter. I mean, what am I going to be doing, running direct storage? Ha! Got him.
Okay.
That is a good way of actually getting into things, taking away your normal hard drive and putting in a cheap replacement to experiment with. It's not a bad idea. One thing that I mentioned in the comments actually on the other video is I don't really store any files on my computers. They are on a NAS that I access when I'm at my network or via my VPN, and that's how I do it. I don't really worry about my computers working themselves because I can go in and get those files, and to get a computer running, it just takes my configuration files, a simple re-upload to a new install, but a little bit advanced. I get it.
So this is what happened last time. My desktop, you can see where it's supposed to sort of end, but it keeps going, and the mouse can go over there. So I'm going to right click right below the Mint logo. Nothing shows up, but there's the menu.
I have seen this before, and usually this is on pre-install. Could be wrong, but
if I try to mouse over these, I can't select them. But if I move my mouse back to below this M, there it is. I found it. Okay, so my mouse has to be right there. I'm just gonna see if I can do an easy fix of just turning off my monitor here. To be fair, it is not installed yet. This is a live boot environment. See if it comes back. I'm gonna turn
there you go.
that back on. DisplayPort, no signal. Okay.
I was worried that my Thunderbolt connection, I used Thunderbolt to connect to a dock from my main display, was going to cause problems with the installer because there's no drivers installed or anything. So I hooked up my monitor that's here in the server closet, but hey, there it is, just like that.
That's pretty cool, and that actually is of my experience with Linux. Is usually things are just plug and play. Usually. Again, you guys are going to make fun of me for the mic from the previous video. So
my mouse, he no move. Oh wait, where'd it go? Oh, I thought. Oh wow. Oh, the sensitivity is just so high that I couldn't tell it was there. Okay then. Yep, that's the one. Here we go. Full name. Yes.
Just do a quick restart.
Does anybody actually enter their full name though? Like for all of my systems, I just use my first name. I don't know why it prompts you for full name.
And turn to the side monitor off, and it's fixed to the bounds of the screen, and the mouse problem is solved. So just installing directly from the live environment. So I do want the multimedia codecs. It's nice that Mint comes with those. Not every distro does. I haven't decided which drive to actually put Mint on, so I'm not entirely sure where it's installing these media codecs, but it's doing something. Okay, finish the install. It wants me to remove my flash drive. Got it, and then press enter. This is our first login, and we're there. Check video drivers. I knew I was gonna run into that installing Mint instead of Pop! OS, but that is a challenge I have decided to undertake. It should be okay, but we'll see later. I'm gonna go through this welcome manager.
First order of business is to get our mouse speed down from over 9,000 to something more reasonable. That seems more like it. Also, why the hell is this on by default? No obvious indication that any of my hardware is not working fully. Even my Aquantia network card picked up just fine. I knew audio was going to be a challenge because I don't think the Go XLR has any kind of, oh, this is interesting, output. Hello? Okay, it appears to be taking my input right now, which is my mic right over here, presumably, and turning it into output.
I have seen this happen before, and pulse audio is not the best thing for fixing this. Like it's confusing. And you keep going through the settings and changing things. Sometimes, like when I first started with Linux, I was going through and I was essentially guessing and checking if the audio was working properly because I didn't know what input was what, and I get it. Hardware compatibility, very, very decent nowadays. Like I have a 5900X that I got, and after a few months of it being out, it was working flawlessly. Getting it was another story, but
blah blah blah. Yep, that's definitely it. Does this work at least?
Left, front, right.
Okay, well, I've got the sound at least. I was looking for a simple way to just list all the hardware connected to the system so that I could verify if my drivers are installed. Linux apparently doesn't really work like that, but I can just install this utility called hardinfo. Not exactly a hardware info substitute, but it's a lot better than nothing. Of course, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on any of this for now, because the goal today for part one is to pick a distro, get it installed, and run a game. I will definitely need Steam. Failed to install Steam. Morning, you were trying to remove following essential packages. What are you talking about? I've done nothing with this other than install that hardinfo thing. You know what's hilarious? The last time I tried to do anything on Ubuntu, I ran into this exact same thing. I was told, it's super simple. You just install it. No, you do not.
Valid point. I think that Pop! OS fixed this after this video came out because it was kind of a glaring issue. If you read what he's trying to do there, you're trying to remove your desktop environment, and that's going to brick your system for, like, the average person would essentially assume your system's bricked.
This is stupid. Apparently, this is the solution.
And I'm just reading
And I have to
here.
type, yes, do as...
The following essential packages will be removed. Pop desktop, GNOME Control Center, GDM3, Xorg. Yeah, let's see what happens here.
I say in order to install it.
Just as an aside, I've never had do as you say as a prompt, or do as I say as a prompt. So I assume that's pretty major.
And maybe it will install and launch now. What is the point of having a...
Nope.
Yeah. Hello? Did my computer just hard reset? What? I mean, to be clear, I've seen some broken Windows behavior on first install, but this is...
He bricked his system.
He's dead, Jim.
Okay, so we've got the Novu, or however that's pronounced, open source driver. Fantastic, happy they made that. But we are going to try to move to the proprietary NVIDIA 470 driver. Install done, just need to restart. A few.
That's something that I noted in the other video that I did, is that the proprietary drivers do seem to work a little bit better for some applications. I know people are going to be yelling at me for open source only and blah, 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 blah. But for me, running like DaVinci Resolve and such, the proprietary drivers seem to be either required, at least a year ago when I had installed them, and they usually work a little bit better.
A few more errors than last time, but I think we're still good. Genuinely think this is fine. Yeah, nice, okay. Now Linux Mint also has an update manager. A new version update manager is available. Apply the update. It updates, and then it finds all the different updates that we need.
Pressing the reset button on my computer did not, in fact, allow it to come back to life. Let's try an all the way off and start again. Not that I think that will do anything different from the reset button. Man, if I manage to completely brick this install in 15 minutes, that might be a new personal best for me. My machine is not even posting now. I have plugged the HDMI cable back in here. Let's see what happens. Hello? Hey, there we go. Okay, so that's back. That's not. My phone battery is only at like 6%, but I'm afraid to turn the camera off now because this ride has been absolutely wild. Pretty wild. Oh, hey, there we go. Hello? Oh, wait, what? Did I manage to completely nuke my desktop environment? Like my...
Yes. So he would have not a very fun time reinstalling this stuff. Like, you could do it, but I think just fresh installing is probably going to be an easier solution.
My GUI? How? Just logged in, and this is what I got. Ubuntu comes with absolutely no warranty. I can see why. This was a terrible experience.
Now, I will mention, he actually is inside the computer. Like, this is still a computer. You can still do things, but for the average person, and I will tailor this review to that, this would be frightening. And this would be the end deal. They'd be off this in a second.
And I think that's where I'm going to have to leave it for tonight, because I found this other post saying, hey, yeah, I had this problem. This was not easily solvable, so had to fresh install. I don't think I'm going with Pop! OS again. I mean, that was... You guys were there for the whole thing. That was utterly ridiculous.
Continuing to install updates, I have turned on my side monitor. One minor issue, I can't go over there with my mouse because my mouse has to go all the way left, and then it's over there. So I need to reconfigure the desktops. Right click.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty standard procedure. Even with Windows, you see that. So
doesn't get me there. So yeah, we'll figure it out.
You know what? No, forget it. The wife's still awake, so I've got Manjaro loaded up here, and we're going to take another crack at this puppy. To be clear, it's entirely possible that I did something completely wrong, not knowing what I was doing, and I'm responsible for the OS getting bricked. I just also think that with you guys along for the ride, the things that I did were not entirely ridiculous or unreasonable. So you can be mad at me for bricking it, but just at least acknowledge that it could have happened to anyone who's not already fully well-versed in the black arts of Linux.
Fair point, but if you read what it said, I get the average person is not going to know what those programs are. So Fair points.
Okay, hold on a second. I didn't manage to catch the boot selector prompt. Started complaining about USB devices. Feels like the old days, doesn't it? You know, I made a video about our 10 gig NAS using Emulex cards. Probably like 9 years ago in this very room. A lot of memories in this house. Mixed feelings on moving. Manjaro went straight into the live boot environment, so we're just gonna launch the installer. And good luck, everybody.
I got Wine installed through the software manager. I needed to get Lutris. I didn't find Lutris in the software manager, so I just went to the Lutris website, followed the command line stuff, and I now have Lutris,
Luke's having an easier time.
which we'll close for now and use later. The Mint software manager had Steam. Well, I selected install. It made me put in my password twice, and now it's removing. It never stopped trying to do that removing thing, but I just closed the package manager, clicked onto, I'm going to call start. I don't know if it's called start here. And Steam was sitting right there. So I launched it, and it seems to be working. So maybe we're fine. Okay.
Sometimes doing this stuff via the command line is easier. I know. The average person is not going to do that, but at least with the command line, you see like what the process is, what's going on, where things may fail, and then you can fix things and see what's going on.
Sweet. I'm going to log in.
I know that the average person is not going to use the command line.
I'll see you on the other side.
I just want you guys to be here with me for the experience so that if I completely explode this one, you'll at least know why, maybe. You can leave a know-it-all comment under the video. I'm ready. Come at me, guys. I'm trying here. Well, who needs sound anyway? Microsoft has a very broken settings situation right now, but this is worse. Hey, is my game controller picked up just like that? Oh, nice. Look at that. Why are the two columns open source and installed? Does this mean, is this proprietary? Because that's what I think I told it to do. X server settings.
This is my experience with Manjaro. Those things do seem to like the gamepad seems to just work. Like plug and play, keyboard, mouse, etc. seems to work properly. Keep going.
What is X server? X server gonna give it to you what? Okay, all right.
See, this font is normal. I don't know what he did with the font in the other video, but this font is normal.
Seems to do kind of what we need it to do. I'll figure this out later. Let's get Steam. Let's see if we can get Steam. I saw something about Steam in that update that made me restart. Oh, Steam runtime. Hello. Oh, we're updating again.
Yeah, I thought Steam comes pre-installed with Manjaro. I could be wrong, but
No problem.
Okay, Steam installed, no problems. I'm going to quickly go to my settings, go to Steam Play, enable Steam Play for all other titles, and then have, I guess we'll do Proton 6.3-7. And then I'll go to shader pre-caching and allow background processing of Vulkan shaders. I guess we got to restart.
See, Luke seems to know a lot about this stuff. I personally don't, but like to go into the settings and to enable that stuff, that must be Windows. You have to do that on Windows too. I don't know.
Steam real quick. I believe FTL has a native Linux version. I'm just going to install directly, and we're gaming on Linux, boys. There we go. I think I'm done. The first challenge. That wasn't really a challenge.
That doesn't appear like a very resource-intensive game, but I mean, fair enough.
I suspect we will run into major challenges down the line.
Library. Oh yeah. Oh hey, look at that. Look at that. Oh, boom. Linux. Now the game I've been playing recently is Cave Story Plus. Is this Linux? Just like native freaking let's go boys? Oh wait, my sound still isn't working. Yeah, I still have no sound. Honestly, I'm kind of willing to live with that. Let's just it's on the right. And no dice on the controller.
That may be because he has two monitors going. The monitor in the server closet and this. I could be wrong.
Even though it was picked up by the system. I guess we need to figure that out now. This video ended up a lot longer than I expected. The goal was simple, install Linux and run a game. And I managed to screw it up so royally that I'm here hours later, still trying to figure it out.
This is probably everyone's first experience, I'm not going to lie.
This is a native Linux game. Let's just play it. And we're gaming. It's running nice and smooth. This is a native game, so this is really not that much of a challenge. My sound still isn't working. Still have no idea why that would be, but we're gaming, and And it seems to have just been a cave story issue because my controller is working just fine. Can I jump? Whatever, attack. Yeah, there you go. Hopefully Luke had an easier go of it than I did. The best part of this whole thing is that we are just getting started. A lot of the games that I want to run, like Supreme Commander, Forge and Alliance, appear to have ways to run them. Discord looks like there's a way to get it going. It involves a lot of command line. Hopefully I won't brick my OS. But step 2 is getting streaming working. Both Luke and I stream. We both need it working if we're going to run this for a month. So good luck, everybody. Thanks, FreshBooks, for sponsoring this video.
Yeah, this is a good video. I think that's more people's first experience with Linux is Linus' side of things. Luke has some pre-experience, so it seems to me that he's going to have an easier time throughout the rest of this challenge. But one thing I will mention is that in the other video, people were saying, come at it from the perspective of somebody that's coming over from Windows to Linux and wants to solely game, doesn't want to work with the command line, doesn't want to do any of that. I get it. I think that the issue becomes, though, is that we start looking at Windows as this kind of all-powerful, like that's what an operating system should be, but Linux is completely different, and they're completely different, Unix versus DOS, etc. So when you're coming over, you have to come over with a little bit of an open mind and say, hey, like things are going to be different. Somebody that's just wants to game, just wants to set things up and make sure that it runs, you're going to have a little bit more of a challenge than if you were just wanting to run it on Windows. But that also begets the chicken versus egg question of why aren't we developing games for this platform? Well, where's the users? And because there's no users, the games. So I love this video series in that I think it's going to encourage a lot of developers to look at these issues. And a lot of these developers are not companies. A lot of these developers that are making this software to make this stuff run are, honest to God, people like you and I. They love tinkering with hardware, and they want to make it so people can run games on these operating systems. And I think that this is a very good way of seeing where the bugs are and where things fall short. So I think that this video series is only going to make this gaming community around Linux much stronger, and I think that's a good thing. So we'll take it into part 3 when it comes out, and thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all the comments on the first video I did. So here's part 2, although it's part 1, but it's part 2 for me. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.